So I'm just opening my repo in study line systems, and as you already know, we already studied the event loop, timeout and set interval, promises. Now you know what's promises. Do you have any problem with promises? So promises, like I told you, a promise is in JavaScript is just like promises in real life. You promise to do something, either you're gonna fulfill your promise or you're gonna reject your promise. Or the promise will be pending, and that means you didn't reject it or fulfill it. To create a promise in JavaScript, you just use new promise with capital P. And after that new promise here, this constructor, it's a class. This constructor take a function as parameter. It take two function actually as a parameter, would receive two function as a parameter, resolve and reject. After that, depending on your condition, either you're gonna resolve the promise or reject it. If you don't resolve or reject the promise, by default, it will be pending. And of course, to access the value inside the promise, you cannot just access them like that. You need to use consumer. Can anyone tell me what are consumers? What are
Then and catch?
Yeah, so do then and catch. You can have, of course, multiple then depending on your need, but catch you can only have one. That should be clear. Timeout and interval, it's just two APIs. Set timeout, this allow you to execute a function after a delay. And set timeout, of course, take two parameters. The first parameter is a function, which will be executed, and the second parameter will be the delay in millisecond. So after the delay, this function will be executed. Set interval is similar to timeout or set timeout. It's the same idea, take the same parameter, a function and delay, but the function will be repeatedly executed after the delay. So here, set interval, your function will be executed after the delay repeatedly until you stop it. Of course, you can stop or clear the timeout or the interval using clear timeout or clear interval, and you need to pass the ID. The ID, set timeout and set interval, both of them, if you save them in a variable, this API return a unique ID. Sync versus async, we've seen that. So when your function is async, or whenever your code is async, or you are using set timeout or set interval or fetch or anything which is async code, what's happening here, it will go to the call stack, and then JavaScript, it will evaluate that it cannot execute it immediately because it's asynchronous code. So it will move it to Web API, and after that, whenever it's ready, it will be moved to the queue, and then from the queue, the event loop is gonna move it to the call stack. But only if the call stack is
Empty.
empty. As for synchronous code, of course, synchronous code, JavaScript need to execute it. So no matter what, it need to execute it. So if I have a synchronous function, a normal function we study, JavaScript will have to execute this function, even if it takes some time, because it's synchronous function. So JavaScript need to execute it. Of course, all the synchronous code is being executed before asynchronous code is being executed. We discuss that. For promises, I think I go in detail promises. Let me just show you this one. Click on that. So normally, whenever you create a promise, you have the status it will be pending, and then you have two options. Either you're gonna resolve your promise, and that will be fulfilled, and then need to go to the then block, and of course, then as I told you, it's a consumer, and it take a function as a parameter. The value I pass to the resolve here, I will receive it in then. So the function which I created inside then, it will receive this value and can use it. Then we have reject. Of course, reject, it will be dot catch, and the dot catch also take a function as a parameter. And whatever I'm passing to reject here, it will receive inside the catch block. Simply like that. Yeah, I think that's clear. You can have multiple then, of course, and you can have only one reject. Okay, what else? So today we're gonna have a look at something called fake fetching. So what is fake fetching? Fake fetching is just now the idea here. We are not trying to teach you how to get the data from the backend API, but the idea here now, we will give you the API. So there is a specific function we create which will give you the data. So It will give you the data, and you need to know how to handle these data, how to manipulate these data, how to structure this data. So the objective of effect fetching is not to teach you to get data from the backend. We already have a function, and you don't need to understand the function. We just have a function which will give you the data. But what you need to do here, really, you need to know how to handle a promise using consumer, and after that, what to do with this data. It will be clear now when we see this example. So fetch user by ID. Let's go to the example, 0. Now here, as you can see, we are importing users, as you can see, from, you don't have to worry about this one. So as I told you, we already create a function or set of function for you, but all you have to know that your data, you are receiving your data, and your data here, it will be a promise, so you need to handle this promise. Fine. If I go now to my console here, and I log users, so let me just refresh on log user run. As you can see, I have 10 users. So each user, as you can see, maybe it will be a little bit easier if we go to JSON placeholder, because actually this data is coming from this fake API, which is we called JSON placeholder. So click on that. I've shared the link already with you on Slack. Well, as you can see here. So if I go to this JSON placeholder.typecode.com, click on that. So this JSON placeholder is a fake API. You may ask me why it's fake API. I will tell you later why it's fake API. Because it's really not an API. You cannot just add data. Okay, you can receive data, but you cannot add data. If the data or if the API is not a fake API, you need to be able to add users, for example. But in this example here, it will show you that the user is being added, but actually it will not be added because it's fake. We use it mostly just for testing, because we don't have a backend, so this one can work as a backend. It will give us some data. You can have different resources. So you can have post, 100 posts, you can have comment, you can have album, you can have photo, you can have to-dos, and we will do all of those on projects. But what's interesting for me is user here. If I click on that, as you can see, it will show me 10 different users. Actually, there are 8, I think, not 10. But anyway, let's see. No, 10 actually. They have ID 10. So each user, as you can see, of course, it will be array of objects, the normal data we get used to. It could be an object. Sometimes it will be an object inside it. I have an array. Sometimes it could have just an array. Like in this example, I just have an array, and inside it I have an object. So user object consists of ID, 1, 2, 3, whatever. The ID must be unique, name, username, email, and address. As you can see, it's another object with street, suit, a city, zip code, and geolocation here. That's latitude and longitude. And after that, we will have the phone number. Then we have the website, and then also a company, which will be an object. So we have a name of the company, the catchphrase of the company, and BS, which I don't know what it means, but it's not important for me. So as you can see here, each user will have the same data exactly. So it will be an object with ID, name, username, email, address, which will be an object with further some other property, phone, website, company, also with other property. So simply what we're trying to show you in this example, we're just trying to show you how the user look like. Well, in here. So as you can see, you have 10 different users here, which will be an array of objects. Each user has different property, ID, name, blah, 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 blah. And that's what we'll be using, actually. These user resources we'll be using to do our exercise. Is the idea clear? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. So that's my data. You can imagine it now. When we build a project, you write the data. So we write the data. Normally, it's object inside it an array, but in this case, it's array of objects. I have, as you can see, different user from ID 1 until ID 10. So the length is 10. I have 10 users here. So that's my data simply. You can imagine it this way. Fine, let's go to the second one. Fetch user by ID. What if I want to get a specific user by ID? By the way, if I go again to JSON placeholder, so let's go to JSON placeholder, and I did this one and click. And now if I go to my resources again, which is user, now if I say user /1 and enter, it will give me only an object with as a user with ID 1. If I say, for example, 2, enter, it will give me only a user with ID 2. If I try to access a user which does not exist, I'm quite sure ID 20 does not exist, click, it will give me an empty object. Why? Because simply a user with ID 20 does not exist. Is the idea clear? So you can access different user if you want to, just using slash and the user ID. Cool?
Yes.
Of course, there's many other technique, but now for now, we'll just stick with this one. Okay, fetch user by ID. So what we are doing here, let's see what we are doing here. First, we are importing our labeled logger. I told you labeled logger is a function. As you can see, they are executing this function. When they executing this function, it will give you an object. And in this object, we are destructuring, as you can see, 2 functions. We have log and error. Now, log does work exactly like console.log, but provide you with a little bit more information. Error work exactly like console.error, but also with other information. So you just can use this one log, just like console.log, error just like console.error, but here it will be better because it provides more information. That's it. We are also importing a function, as you can see, and this function is called fetch user by ID. And from the name, as you can see from the name, it's trying to fetch a user by ID. So let's see what's going on here. Let's just collapse this function first, and then let's go here. So I'm just logging fetch user 1. So I'm using this fetch user by ID, which I told you it's a function. I am telling you this function return a promise. You do not need to know how this function works. Just know that this function here, it's return a promise. And this function here, you need to pass an ID. So as you can see, I am passing ID 1, and I know it return a promise. Because I know it return a promise, how can I handle a promise? How can I handle promise? You guys, I just asked you before 5 minutes, how can I handle a promise?
Using consumers?
Yes, you don't need to think about it. There's nothing to think about it. So all the time, if I want to handle a promise, access the value inside a promise, I need to use consumer. Or later on, we will learn how to use async await. But for now, just using consumer. And as you can see, .then log user. And you may tell me, what is log user? Well, I told you then take a function as a parameter, right? Because then here, take a function as a parameter, we put the function outside. And this function, of course, it will receive whatever this promise here, the resolve one, whatever it's returning. And whatever this resolve here, if I get the user data, it will be an object. Because now we've seen that if I get the user by ID 1, it will return me an object. And I'm passing the object to this function as the user, and that's log user here. Okay. Now I know this one here, it will be an object. So I'm just gonna log user dot or the user dot ID. Now in the user object, do I have an ID or not? In the user object, do I have an ID or not?
Yes.
Of course I have. Just one placeholder and just click users. It's just like I'm saying /1. So if I'm gonna send a request or try to get user 1, as you can see, if I get user 1, it will be an object, as you can see. And of course, in this object, I have an ID, as you can see. So I can just say user.id to get the user ID. Is the idea clear what I'm trying to do? Yes, no?
Yes.
Good. If you don't like it this way, some people don't like it this way, it's fine, you can change it. You can just write a function like that. And instead of this one, just say user like that, user, voila. Or user data, I don't know, whatever you like. You can just put like that. And after that here, try to log this one. It is possible as well. If you don't like the way they are doing it, but of course here I need to, because I name it user, I need to replace it with the user like that. And here it will do the same job. So this one or this one are the same exactly. Because here we are just passing the function, as you can see. So I'm passing the name of the function. And of course, the name of the function here, as you can see here, the function should receive something. If the promise resolved, it will return the user. And I'm receiving the user. I'm just logging the user ID as the user object. But what if the promise did not resolved? If I have an error? So it could happen as well. So probably I will receive a message from the backend telling me why I'm not getting this user. I mean, that's the convention normally. And what I'm doing here, I'm just console.error, or I'm using error function just to try to log this rejection. What the message will be. Is the idea clear what I'm trying to do here? Yes, no? Hello? Should be simple, huh? No? Yes, maybe. So it's not
No,
not clear?
not clear.
Yes or no?
No, 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 not clear.
No. That's surprising. Let's try to do it. Let's not do an example ourselves here, okay? To make it clear. So this function here, we are giving you this function, which is called fetch user by ID, okay? Voila. So I'm going to go here, fetch user by ID. Now, fetch user by ID, I am telling you, I need to pass a parameter, and this parameter, it will be the user ID. Of course, if we go to JSON placeholder and I go to users, as you can see, I have until user ID 10. So maybe let's try to fetch user with ID 5, for example, okay? It doesn't matter really, it's really up to you. So I will just say fetch user by ID 5. And now here, what this function is going to do, somehow it will go to this JSON placeholder and it will try to grab the user with ID 5. But I know that if I get the user with ID 5, it will give me what? It will give me an object, as you can see. And this object has some data related to this user, if I get it, of course. So what should I do? Well, what I can do simply, let's go here. I know that this fetch user by ID return a promise. How can I handle this promise? How can I handle promise normally?
With consumers?
Yeah, so I have to use consumers. I will say .then. Now, of course, in then, that means my promise was successful, or my request was successful. So I'm trying to get the user by ID. I'm trying to get user 5. If I'm successfully getting the user 5, I will receive an object, right? And this object here, I will receive it in this function here, which I'm passing to then. I can name it user data, for example. Whatever it is, you can name it whatever you want. And of course, if I'm receiving user data, I can just simply log user data. Can I do that or not?
Yes.
Okay, now what if I have a problem? Because really, when we try to do any fetching, getting data from the backend, we have two possibilities. Either our request will be successful or it will be not successful. So I need to handle either then that will be successful, and in case it's not successful, I will have catch. And as I told you, catch also take a function as a parameter. And normally here we just pass an error like that. Normally the backend, if there is an error, you cannot get this user, it will send you either an object or a string just telling you why you cannot get this user. And here, simply I can just use the error function, which we created, and I can log this error here. Voila, simply like that. So let's try to do this code. I'm gonna comment all this code because just to make it clear for you. So let me comment all this code for now. Voila. Let's comment all this code for now. Voila. Ah, no, not my code, not my code. Voila, and I'm gonna comment this one as well. I don't need it, I just need my code only. So let's log it here, and let's go to the console. Of course, as I told you, now what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to get a user with ID 5. I have two possibilities. Either I'm gonna successfully get the user with ID 5, and if I get the user with ID 5, it will be an object. How could I know? Well, because I'm trying to fetch the user from this API, and now if I say /5, give me the user 5, it gave me an object. So if I'm successful, I will get this object. Well, if I am not successful, I will receive error or message or something from the backend. Or maybe I did not get anything. It really depends how the backend is built. In my case, probably I will receive nothing. I will receive just an empty object, as we see. Because here, for example, if I try, if the user does not exist, I say 20, it will give me an empty object. But sometime maybe the server is down. I don't know. Maybe the server is not working. It is now working. We never know what will happen. A lot of things can go wrong while you are trying to get data from the backend. So let's run. And now here it's logging. And voila, as you can see. So it was actually successful. And I'm getting user 5, as you can see. ID 5. Name Chelsea something. Username Carmen. Email, I have address, I have its object. Company, I have email, I have blah, blah, blah. And voila, simply like that. Cool or not?
Yeah, Samir, fetch user by ID. This is an inbuilt function, right?
No, 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 no. It's not built-in function. It's function we built for you. And you know it's a built-in function if you did not import it. But because I imported here, as you can see from fetch user by ID, we created the area.
Okay.
When we do the fetching, I will give you another API. We name it fetch. Don't worry, it's much easier than this function. Okay? So now here, this function, it's not built-in function. Error log, errors are not built-in function. We build them for you. And it's very simple to know the built-in function and non-built-in function. So as you can see here, we are importing them. Because we are importing them, that means they are not built-in function. Because if they are built-in function, I don't really need to import anything unless it's a package. I'm not using any package, right? Cool?
Yeah, but Samir, hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, Niado.
Yeah, why we are going very complexity, the complexity?
Well, you make it.
Because, yeah, because fetch function is very easy instead
Yeah.
of this, right?
You're absolutely right. But Diniando, the reason why we are doing that, because we are trying to divide, or we can teach you here two things.
Mm-hmm.
The thing we can try to teach you here is first, how can you handle the data? So you know, it's not really that difficult to grab the data from the backend using fetch, because fetch, as you know, it's very simple.
Yeah.
And build area as well. It is much simpler than this one. Yeah. But now we don't want to bother you with the detail of fetch or now. What we're trying to do here, we're trying to give you the data and we try to teach you how to handle this data, how to access the user ID, how to access the username, how to construct a string with the username or the company name or stuff like that. So the idea now we are concentrating how you can handle the data, manipulate the data. When you know manipulate the data, fetching is simple, as I told you. After that, you will learn how to simple. You guys,
Yeah.
okay. Is the idea clear now? What I'm doing here for everyone?
Samir, could you do it from the beginning, like in VS Code, for example, and not in the licenses? Because like here is like some function that is built, but we don't know how it works. Like okay, we have the website, the placeholder, JSON placeholder, and just this one and VS Code. And let's do it from scratch, maybe, because it will be easier for us. Because here we don't know what is this function that were built by somebody, but we don't know what it does exactly. So can we do it from scratch, like not in study licenses, but in VS Code?
Yeah, but you don't listen to me. You don't have to understand how this function works, because in this function we are using some keyword you didn't learn it yet, which is async await. And I don't want to explain them now. You get my point?
But can we do it like ourselves from scratch without using it, or like using the JSON placeholder?
But Agnieszka, you will not need to do that, because in JavaScript there is a built-in API allow you to get the data from the backend. It's much easier. I don't need to create my own function as fetch here. So if I just say fetch and I give the URL, this fetch API, it will go to the backend and give me the data. You got my point? You don't need to. You do not need to understand how this function works. I will explain it later when we study async await, but there is much easier way to get the data. Don't care about the function, what this function is doing, how it's working. Don't worry about that. I'm going to teach you later. Now, just worry about one thing. Worry now, here, you need to know that this function return a promise. And if you pass the ID, here, you need to handle a promise using Zen and cache. Now, if your request was successful, you will get the user data here. If it was not successful, you probably get either error object or error string, and then after that, you can log it. Is the idea clear? Don't worry about what the function is doing, because in JavaScript, we have a built-in function which is called fetch. Fetch is much useful or easier to use than any other function, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I think now it's clear. If you want to get the user with ID 10, it's the same idea. You just replace the ID, and as you can see, voila, I'm getting it. Sometimes maybe I not get it, huh? Well, as you can see, 10, and voila. Let's try to get user with ID does not exist. Let's say 22, which I know it does not exist. And voila, as you can see, not 404. 404 mean a status code. It means the user does not exist. So 404 means that the resource what I'm trying to get does not exist. So 404, just remember, it means just it does not exist. What I'm trying to get does not exist. Is the idea clear? Yep, no. Yeah.
It's getting better, let's say.
As you can see, that's fetch user by ID. We are using some keyword you do not know. We are using async. We are using await, and you don't know what is async await. I don't want to explain now for you. Okay. Just understand that here, if you pass the ID, will get you the user, and the user, it will be an object. So that's simply how it is. Fine. So what we can do here now, or what we are trying to do, well, here's this function here. Instead of, I told you, then we are passing a function. Instead of passing as a function directly, they put the function here, log user, and here it will receive the user object. And here I'm logging user.id because I know that the user object include ID. And here it will log also the user object. Now, in header rejections, that means in case I have an error, I'll probably receive something, either a message or object or something from the backend. And here I'm just trying to log also this rejection, whatever it is, object or a string, using console.error or error function we create. So what we are trying to do here at this line 42, can anyone tell me what we are trying to do at line 42?
You try to fetch user.
Very good. We are trying to fetch a user by ID 1. Now this function here, fetch user by ID 1, what does it return? I told you what does it return. What does it return?
Object.
Object.
No, what does it return? Not data, before.
Promise.
Promise. So this function here, it return a promise. Because it return a promise, I need to use consumer, and that's the reason why I'm saying .then and .catch. This function return a promise. Yes, the final result when I handle the promise, it will be the user object, yes. But actually this function return a promise. So in a promise like that, you cannot access the promise, whatever the promise result, if you don't use consumer. So that's one reason I'm saying .then log user. And of course here, if the log user here, if I get the user, it will get the user object, it will log user.id and the user object. Of course, if I did not get it and handle rejection and if some reason something happened, I'm just logging the message. As you see here, the message, it was 404, for example. This message is telling me that the user does not exist. I'm trying to fetch the user by ID 12 here. Can anyone tell me what I will get here? How many users did we have in the JSON placeholder?
10.
10. I'm trying now to fetch user with ID 12. What I will get?
An error.
Error.
What is the code, the status code?
404.
404, yeah. So 404, 404, okay? Yes, we pronounce it in English 404, but it's 404. So because the status code all are numbers. So 404 just telling me that user with ID 12 does not exist. Let's try to run our code and see what will happen. Clicky. So as you can see now, I'm waiting a little bit. Voila. And as you can see here, it's telling me 500. So what the hell is 500? Can anyone tell me what's this status code 500?
It's a server error.
Indeed. Very good. Very good, Egypt. So 500, any 500, 500, 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, anything start with 500, that means it is server error. So here I'm trying to fetch a user with ID 12, but the server was for some reason not giving me this user. So here it's a server error. It's not you, like it's a problem not from you as a user, it's a problem from the server. The server, for some reason, is not giving me this user. Is the idea clear? Yep, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, I'm trying to get user with ID 1. I got the user with ID 1, but the user with ID 12 Obviously, I have 500 error. And this status code here, it helps us to know what is the problem. So 500 telling me like I have a server error. If it's server error, it's not, I cannot do anything. I need to go to the backend to try to fix it, see what's the problem. Of course, we don't have server error, by the way. This error, we are creating it. So here in our code, we creating this error just to show you that when you're trying to send a request to the backend, you could get multiple error. Okay. Yeah, so just two users. I'm trying to fetch two users, a user with ID 1 and user with ID 12. Question.
If we know that the user with ID 12 doesn't exist, so why it's server error and not 404?
Why it's sending me an error and
What it's why it's sending the server error and not 404 that not found?
yeah, because the server does not give me. So imagine it this way, Agnieszka. If you go to supermarket, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You go to supermarket and you tell me, for example, give me a pack of cigarette, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know that cigarette now, the guy tells you there is no cigarette, they're over. I don't have any cigarette, right?
Yeah.
Now, go again to the store and the store is closed. The store is closed. You cannot go inside and ask if there is a pack of cigarette or something. So there is another problem. You cannot go to the store to ask if there is cigarette or not. So we tell you again that I don't have cigarette. You got the problem. So I'm trying to the user, but I have a problem. The server is not working. If the server is working, then it will return me this error, which is still 404 user does not exist. Clear?
Okay.
So when you are dealing with a server, you could end up with multiple error, many different error. We have 500, we have 400, all 400, that means it's user error. That means it's for the front end error, let's say. The guy trying to grab the data, it's error, user error. All 500, that means it's server error. All 200, they mean they are successful. For now, just remember this one, all 200, that means successful. Successfully, I got the user here, for example, this example here. All 400, it means it's the user error, someone trying to get the data. Maybe you send incorrect URL. So when I'm trying to fetch data, I need to pass the URL here. So that's what you call the URL. Maybe I'm passing not correct user URL. For example, if I type instead of users, I type something else. For example, I remove this one, I do something like that, click. And of course, it will not give me. So there is a problem here because this URL is not correct. And when I try to do that as a backend, it will give me an error. Maybe 500, that means the server is down or the internal server error. Is the idea clear?
Yes.
Okay. So we're just trying to teach you or show you how we can get different users. As simply it is. Inline backhaul, so it will be the same idea, as you can see. It's the same idea, but it's just a little bit better. I like this way, actually. Why? Because as you can see here, what we are doing here, we are just getting, so we're trying to fetch user with ID 1, and then here, and then we are passing our function directly. And I like this style better. Why? Because it's more readable for me, at least. So then if I get the user, it will be an object, I'm logging the user. If I did not get the user for some reason, I have an error or something, I'm logging also the error. By the way, logging include both of them. When I say console.log or console.error, both of them are logging because I'm showing them in the console, okay? So this is logging, this is logging. Here we are using console.log, here we are using console.error. So I'm trying to fetch user by ID 1, then 5, then 10, and all of them, as you know, exist user. So I'm trying to send a request to get this user. If I get them, I will just get the user. I will log the user object. If I did not get them, probably I will have an error message as you've seen, and I'm gonna try to log it using log error or the error function I have here. Is the idea clear? Yep, no.
Yes.
Okay, now my
Yes.
question for you, which line of code do you think it will happen first? And remember the log here, it's just like console.log, huh? Which line of code it will happen first? What do you think?
14.
14. Yes, this one it will happen 14. Then this one it will happen, right?
Mhm.
Then this one will happen. because that's synchronous code. And then this one is happening. And then now this is the interesting part actually. We have this one, and then we have this one, and then we have this one. So we have three promises here actually. Which one do you think it will happen first?
16,
Why?
because ID is number 1.
Okay, nice. Another opinion? So again, I have fetching by ID 1, by 5, by 10. Now, Rodica may probably what you said is true, and I will see log 1, but that's not the correct answer actually.
First in, first out.
First in, first out, that's in the queue. The queue, that's, how can I say, this is a promise. So you are just mentioning a small part, which is the queue. Here's the whole process. So this fetching here, it will go to the call stack. The call stack say, I cannot execute it. It will move it to the web API. And after that, it will wait until it gets the user, then it will go to the queue. But the idea, the problem, Umra, when this one and this one and this one go to the web API, we don't know which one will be finished first. So yes, maybe all three inside the web API, but maybe this one first enters the queue. If this one enters first the queue, that means the first one will be executed, which will be ID 5. Because simply, I don't know how many time or how much time it will take this task to be executed, or this task to be executed, or this task to be executed. I have no idea. I will try to make it simple. If we go to the restaurant, three of us, let's say Adil, let's say Diniando, and let's say Ejid, okay? Three of them, they went to the restaurant. So Ejid asked first his demand first the waiter, and he's told him, I need a piece of steak, for example, whatever, I need a steak. After that, let's say Diniando asked, and he said, I just want a sandwich, whatever the sandwich is. And let's say after that, Adil asked just for a bottle of water. So will the waitress, will our waiter or waitress will tell Adil, okay, you asked last, that means you have to wait until we give Ejid his steak and Diniando his sandwich, or we will just come and receive it to give it to Adil? Do you understand my point or not?
We
Yes.
will give it to Adil.
Exactly. So when this one happen, I'm trying to fetch some users, okay? Those are promises. So the first one finished, it will go directly to the queue, and then it will, after that, whenever the call stack is empty, the event loop will move it to be executed. So in reality, in this case here, I don't know which one will happen first. This one or this one or this one, I have no idea. It's really depend how much time need to be executed. So if this one, for example, the sandwich, it could happen second, for example. If this one is the steak, it could happen third, probably. If this one is a bottle of water, it could happen first, probably. So I don't really know. So it's really depend how much time consumed by each promise. Do you get my idea? We are just ordering.
Yes.
We are just ordering some food, and of course it depends really on type of food, because if I order a sandwich, it will not be like ordering some steak. It will longer time. But now for this example, probably one, it will happen first. But again, in case of promises, we don't really know. Why? Because we are just all of them, this guy asking for user 1, this one asking for user 5, this one asking for user 10. And depending on how much time needed to get user 1 or 5 or 10, I mean, it will be executed. Maybe if I execute the code the first time, I will get user 1 first. If I execute it multiple times, I will get user 5. We will never know. So let's run. And I got user 10 first, then 1, then 5, as you can see. See? So actually, it's not a rule. User 10 finished first, although it was the last. And user 1 finished second, although it was the first. And user 5 finished last, although it was the second. Did you get the idea, guys?
Yeah.
So it's just like a restaurant, as I told you. We are ordering something, and of course it depends which one finished first. Of course, the guy here does not tell you, oh no, this guy ordered first, I'm gonna wait until he get his order, then I'm gonna get your food. It doesn't make sense. All of us, we are requesting something, and it really depends which one is finished first. That's it.
And if you click again run, so it could be in a different order?
Yeah, so it's here, even if I change the order now, by the way, if I run the code a little bit more, maybe I get one first. So it's depend on the time. Here is really, I don't know, it's really depend on the time that needed to get each user. Sometimes maybe the server under a lot of requests on the server, and I tried, for example, to ask user 5, and here it will be a little bit slow. Let's try to run it again. And remember, 10 was first, then 1, then 5. Let's run it again. And now 5 first, then 10, and then 1, as you can see. Cool? It's fun, huh? Voila. Any question here? Question? Question?
No.
By the way, it's not a problem if I don't know which one happened first. I'm just sending multiple requests. Whenever I get my data, I will just do something with my data. So it's not a problem. It's okay. Fine. Inline processing user data. And now that's the important part, actually. What is the important part here? So as you can see, if I get now this function, I'm going to use it inside the Zen here, Zen block, which you called create introduction, whatever you want to. So if I get the user, it will be an object, as I told you, right? So I'm saying user.id, and of course, this is a template string, as you can see here. This is template literal, as you can see. So here I'm just saying $, bracket, of course, curly brace, user.id, because if I get the user object, that means I will have an ID. Then I'm adding, hello, my name is, of course, I want the username now, user.name. So if I get the user, with this function here, then it will return me just a message, a string, because this one here, it will be a string actually. So it will return me a string with the user IDs and columns and hello, my name is whatever the username is. So that's what we call processing user data. So when you get the data from the backend, it will be, I don't know, arrays of object or object of arrays. But my job here, I need to handle this data. I need to process this data. I need to access the information I need. And that's what's important for me. So let's go back again. I'm trying to log something. It's just some string. I'm trying to fetch user with ID 1. Then, of course, because fetch user by ID 1 or by ID, whatever the ID I want to, it's a promise. I need to handle it. Then I'm using then. And then I'm passing the user here. That's my user, as you can see. So user here, it will be an object. If successfully I get user by ID 1, I will get an object user. And then here I'm calling this function, as you can see. And then I'm passing the user object. And of course, here, as you can see, I'm returning a string, which is called user ID colon, hello, my name is whatever the username. And of course, as you can see here, I have two then here. Because I am using this function in one line, I don't need to use return. Because I told you here, if I have multiple then I need to return something to the second then and so on. But in my case, as you can see, I am using only one line on arrow function, so I don't need return. So this one here, what's this function returning? What does this function returning? What does this function returning? What's the data type? What's the data?
A string?
So here, this function, it will return a string. So I will get this intro, which will be strings, and I'm logging it. Simply like that. So I will have this one, as you can see. One, hello, my name is Leanne Graham. Something like that. So that's simply like that. Of course, if I have an error, I'm logging the error. Same idea, nothing new. Just user 5. If I get the user, I will call create introduction. I will pass my user object, which will return me a string. And then I'm passing it here to the second then. And here intro, it will be just a string for user 5, and then I'm logging it. If I have any error, I will go to the catch block, error just it will log the error. User 12, as you know, it does not exist. So if I try to fetch it, of course, it will give me 404, which will mean user does not exist, or user with ID 12 does not exist. Is the idea clear?
Yes, and here it's 404, but in the previous example, when you put like 22, so the user didn't exist, and it was the 500 server error. So why here it's 404 and there was 500?
I don't know, it's 404. We do not know if it's 404. If the server is down, the point here, Agnieszka,
Mhm.
don't, if the server now here, I'm trying to send a request, maybe randomly, maybe when I'm trying to get user 5, maybe it's telling me the server is down. I don't know.
So here it could be also 500 or
Yes.
something else.
If the server is down, yes, you not
Okay.
down. You need to understand a lot can happen on the backend. The server, if the server is down, I cannot get my data. I don't know. I'm just sending a request. And this request may be, for example, the server is down. Maybe if the server is not down, it will go to the API and it will try to fetch this user. And if it does not find this user, it will return you 404. But if the server is down, it will tell me the server is not working. The store, as I told you in the example, the store is closed. I cannot go inside and ask him, do you have a pack of cigarette? And he tell me, no, I don't have cigarette, right?
Mhm.
That's the idea. So I don't know. I'm just sending a request. So let's try. Refresh, run. And as you can see, I had got here another 500. So you are happy. Happy. Now
But
user,
why here?
user 1 should work perfectly, but as you can see, a server is error. I have 500 internal server error. I couldn't do anything. But user 5 is working. As you can see, I have ID 5. Hello, my name is Chelsea Dietrich. Maybe that's German, I don't know. And then after that, I have 404 not found. This server was working with this guy, 12, but now he's telling me 404. That means the user does not exist. Happy now?
Yeah.
If I try again, bro, maybe I don't have the error. Let's run again. Well, and I got user 1. Hello, my name, I got user 5. And as you can see, 404. If I try again, maybe I get something else. We never know. Cool? Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's how we process user data. You have an object, and inside this object, of course, you can create any function you want to. You can return any string you want to. If you want, you can return an object. This user, it's an object with a lot of property, and I can I can use this property depending on my need. Okay, that should be okay. You need to do the exercises, returning promise. Let's go to the example, return promise.test. Actually, this one, it will be a little bit interesting. So we have the same function, fetch user by ID, which it return a promise, as we know. And we have logger. The logger here is just a function. When we execute it, return an object. And I'm getting just the error here. Or maybe I can, log, and maybe I can also access the error. As you know, we have two functions, log and error. And here we are not using the error, so maybe you can use it. Okay. Oh, fine. So as you can see here, I have some tests here. So what are the tests? Get username, return a username. So what I'm trying to do, name promise, get username. I'm trying to get the username. So what this function is doing here, name promise, that's my function, get username. And this function by default, if I did not pass the ID, it will take the ID 1. So that's the default parameter. And what this function is trying to do here, it will try to return the user name, if I'm not mistaken, username. And after that hook here, what I need to do here, I'm trying to check if whatever this function here is returning the username. So if the username equal to Erwin Howell, and then I will pass the test. If not, I'm not gonna pass the test. Same idea, I'm trying to get user 3 with ID 3, then I'm trying to compare it with Clemens Bush. If it's the same, I'm gonna pass the test. If not, I'm not gonna pass the test. Patricia, so simply what this function need to return, your function what need to return, it need to return the username here. But I'm not quite sure if that's a username or not. So let's go to user 5 here. Do we have user 5? No, I have user 2, 3. Yeah, I have user 5. And the name is Chelsea Dietrich. So let's go here. Chelsea Dietrich. So it's the name actually. Okay. So what we need to, from this function here, we need to return the user name. Again, it's user just name. Yeah. It's not a username, it's a user object and the property name here. So when we try to return this value, and if we return this value correctly, if our function work correctly, we will pass all these tests. I mean, the objective is just to pass the test here. Fine. So what we are doing here, get user by get usernames, that's my function. I'm receiving ID 1. I'm just logging some stuff, use promise. So here I'm using my function, as you can see. Get user by ID, and I'm passing the ID. Fine. So when I call this function here, what does this function will return? Fetch
The
user,
promise.
when we call it, what does it return?
Promise.
Indeed. So it will return a promise. And as you can see here, I'm grabbing this one and I'm using .then. That's the reason why I'm using consumer .then. I need to pass a read name, and read name is another function, simply like that. Fine. So let's see here. What this read name is doing is taking the user object, if I'm not mistaken. User. Yeah. So here, if this is return a promise, then here I will receive the user object. I'm passing the user object to this function, and then I'm logging ID user, and I'm returning user dot name, as you can see. So what this function actually is doing here in this then will return username, as you can see, user dot name. So I'm returning this value here. And of course, if my code here is correct, I need to pass all these tests. If my code is not correct, I will not pass these tests. And if I run it, so I have debugging too. Let's go in here, put a breakpoint, click. And here I will receive the user data, as you can see, the user object. And from the user object, I will just get the username, which is I don't know, in the case, our case is ID 3. So it will be Clement Bunch. Click. And if I go to the console, yeah, there's one is failing. Why? So maybe if some tests fail, maybe you need to check also what's the error. Because if the error is 500, that means it's not your fault. It's just the server is down. Click again, try to run it again, and hopefully I'll pass everything. Yeah, but I need to remove this guy here because it's very annoying. Voila. Save changes, refresh. Let's run it again. Let's go to the console. And as you can see, it's try to fetch the user, all of them, and I pass all the tests. So simply what they're trying to do, actually now you need to do the same idea. You need to a little bit modify the function in order to pass some test. So the idea here, whenever you use fetch user by ID and you pass an ID, of course, I'm receiving the ID here as a parameter. If I don't pass any ID, I will get 1. This guy return a promise. I can save it in a variable. And then here, of course, because it return a promise, I need to use consumer either.then. And here they do not use dot catch here, just .then. And the passing here is a function. So what's happening here, if I've successfully get the user, I will just return, unlock something, and then I will return user.name. So what we are doing really here, we are just returning the username, that's it. And voila. So as you can see, when I'm calling my function, where is this get user by name? When I'm calling my function here, when I'm passing to, remember here, this function here, it will return me this guy here. And this guy, what is this guy? Can anyone tell me what is this guy? What is the username?
It's consumer.
Not really, all of it. It's a promise. Yes?
Yes.
So what I'm going to do, that's the promise. I'm dealing with then. I am passing this data. In README here, I am returning some value here, which is the user.name. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just get the value. I'm using another consumer, but this consumer here, it will be a little bit late. So I'm just returning this value. When I return it, as you can see here, we are using another .then because we want to get the value here, and that's the actual value here. We'll receive it. Because here it will return the user.name, and then I'm just going to call it. You don't have to worry about the detail. All you have to worry about here, it will be manipulating this data. So we are just trying to fetch the user and then return user.name. Then after that, we try to make it sure if it's equal to this value or not. If it's equal to this value, I will pass my test. If not, I will not pass my test. Again, small note, if you don't pass the test, check what's the error. So because sometimes maybe it's a server error, and if it's server error, it's not your fault. Yeah. Yes, no.
Yes.
Good. Well, this one is a little bit better actually. So what we are doing here, same idea, but it's just different structure. So get username, as you can see. I'm using this function get username. I'm passing 2. I'm saying .then. I will receive the value here, and the value here. It's the same idea. I'm just trying again to get the user .name. But here's the function. It will be a little bit different. So here I'm returning fetch user by ID. I'm passing the ID .then. I will get the user. Then I'm returning user .name. Of course, this user .name here, I will receive it here in the other then. Why? Because I'm returning user .name. Because I'm returning user.name here, as you can see, I will receive it in the other then block. So I'm calling this one. I'm receiving it here, and then I'm trying to make sure it's equal to this value. If it's equal to this value, I will pass my test. If not, same idea. Same idea exactly, just the function is written a little bit differently. Yeah? No. Maybe? Yep. Is it okay, guys, or not?
Yeah, it's okay.
Just the same idea, just written a little bit differently. Okay, no intermediate variable, which I like actually. So the less code we have, the better it is. So what they are doing here, same idea exactly. Fetch user by ID, then I will get the user, I will get the username. But here, as you can see, they are just here. We are calling our function. We are passing 2, and this one should return me what? User.name. In this then block, I have another then block. So what will return whatever the first then block is returning. What does it return? User.name. So I should receive the user.name here, and then I'm just trying to compare it with this string. And if it's the same, I will pass my test. If not, I will not pass my test simply. Yep. Or no?
Yes.
Good. Implicit return test. So implicit returns, that means I don't, so we have something called explicit. Explicit means that I need to type return. Implicit means that I do not have to type return, but it will return. And of course, as we know, that will happen only in one case, when we have an arrow function. But not just if we have an arrow function, when I have an arrow function and the code is
In one line.
indeed it's one line. So if my code here, my arrow function is one line, I don't need to use the body of the function. That's first. And second, I don't need to use return. If I use return, I will get an error because it's just one line of code. It's implicitly, so behind the scene, it's returning the value. So what I'm doing here, get user by name, I'm just passing the ID. Fetch user by ID, that's my function. It will return a promise. I'm passing the ID, then that's my user. If I get the user object, then I will get user.name. And of course, if all go well, I should now receive or should return user.name. Of course, to access this value user.name, I need to use another consent here, because I cannot access the value inside a promise if I'm not inside the consumer. So yeah, this is the value return. So I'm saying I'm just calling the function again. I'm passing the ID, and then I say .then, and it should just return me user.name, which will be actual. And then I'm just trying to compare it with this value. That's simply how it is. Yep.
Yeah, Samir, I have a question. So those 3 weeks, we will learn asynchronous, and after that, 3 weeks React, right?
Yes, but you need really to understand asynchronous programming, because don't worry, it's not that difficult actually.
No, I just wanted to ask, will we cover classes during this course or not? Classes in JavaScript.
What's the classes of JavaScript, you mean?
Yeah. Will we cover classes in JavaScript or not?
So the idea, JavaScript, will be done with it by the end of this asynchronous programming. After that, we don't have any more JavaScript, because React is just, as you know, it's a framework for JavaScript. So the real actual JavaScript code, it will be done by this module.
Mhm.
Did I answer your question, Dari?
Yeah, but will we cover classes or not? Classes.
Again, I didn't get your question.
Will we cover during this course classes?
Yes. Classes. You mean classes in JavaScript?
Yeah,
My-
classes in JavaScript, yes.
Yeah. So I'll go very quickly. Let's go here. Let's go home. Actually, we do not have just 3 week or 7. We have more than 6 week left. So if I go to the calendar here,
Uh-huh.
so 3 weeks for asynchronous programming, we have 3 weeks for React, and I have an extra week.
Okay.
In this extra week, I will explain the classes. And also, if you have any other request you want me to explain, I will just see your request. For example, if someone asks me to explain, let's say, Redux, which is state management work with React, or any other framework, even with vanilla JavaScript, which is very important. So I will just see your request, and depending on if I see they're important for you, of course, I'm going to explain. But yes, the class, yes.
Okay, but is it important? Is it widely used classes?
I mean, in JavaScript, if you're going to be a front-end developer, and most of the time now is a framework, if you are using React, of course, we don't use a class-based component. We use more function-based component. But it's a good idea to learn class. Class is really essential, not just for JavaScript, because later on you need to learn another programming language, and you need to understand object-oriented programming no matter what. If you don't learn it now, you need to learn it later. And object-oriented programming requires you to understand what is a class, what is encapsulation, what is inheritance. So I will try to do my best to explain. Yeah, it is very important, actually.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the example. Now, your job here, your nice job will be to go here to this exercise and try to, you have tested, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you have some stuff here. You need to try to fix it to make it working, I suppose. And by the way, here you have the answer, as you can see. So your whatever login here should be exactly the same as this one. So here we are using two probables as a user ID, as you can see. So colon, space, space, we have two space. Make it, you need to understand the string is need to be exactly the same. So even one space it will affect. Have two space, you need to make two space. Then it look like that's the user email or his website. Then his phone number. Actually, that's the website. So that's his maybe email. Anyway, you will check the data, and after that, you will try to log exactly what's written here. Yeah, that's simply, it's not that difficult. Address user summary, and in here in the exercise, same idea, but you have some tests you need to pass. As for async await, I don't think I should explain it now. What time is it? Okay, fine. We will take a break 15 minutes. We'll be back at 10:30. From 10:30 to 11, I'm gonna show you how really we do that. I mean, how we really fetch an API or request a data from the backend and real project. But here it will not be required from you now. We will learn it anyways the coming weeks, but I'll just show you for fun, that's it. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, then let's enjoy our break, and I'll be back at 10, yeah, 10:30.